Most people spend years trying to change their results without ever realizing that results are simply reflections of identity. They focus on earning more money, becoming healthier, building stronger relationships, or creating a successful career, yet they continue to think, speak, and behave like the person they have always been. This creates an invisible conflict. On one side is the future they desperately want, and on the other is the identity they refuse to outgrow. Every action you take is influenced by the story you tell yourself about who you are. If you believe you are someone who gives up easily, your mind will always search for reasons to stop. If you believe you are someone who finishes what you start, your mind will keep looking for ways to move forward, even when life becomes difficult. Before success becomes visible in your life, it must first become believable in your mind. The biggest transformation never begins with changing your schedule, your environment, or your resources. It begins with changing your self-image. The moment you stop seeing yourself as an ordinary person waiting for extraordinary opportunities and start seeing yourself as someone capable of creating those opportunities, your behavior begins to shift. You become more intentional with your time. You become more careful with your decisions. You become less interested in excuses and more committed to solutions. Identity quietly influences every choice you make throughout the day, from how you respond to setbacks to how much effort you are willing to invest in your dreams. Think about the habits that define your daily life. Every habit is a vote for the person you are becoming. When you keep promises to yourself, you reinforce the identity of someone who is reliable. When you continue learning even after a long day, you strengthen the identity of someone committed to growth. When you choose discipline instead of distraction, you confirm to yourself that your future matters more than temporary comfort. These actions may appear small, but they gradually reshape your beliefs. Confidence is not created by repeating positive words in front of a mirror. Confidence is built by collecting evidence that you are becoming the person you said you wanted to be. Many people wait until they feel confident before taking action, but confidence is usually the reward of action, not the requirement for it. Every courageous decision expands your identity a little further. Every challenge you overcome changes the way you see yourself. Every obstacle you refuse to surrender to becomes proof that you are stronger than you once believed. The person you become through consistent effort is far more valuable than any single achievement, because achievements can be lost. But a transformed identity continues to create new opportunities, stronger habits, greater resilience, and a mindset that naturally attracts higher levels of success, responsibility, personal growth, unwavering discipline, and lasting excellence through every decision you continue to make every day. Whether you realize it or not, your mind is engaged in a constant conversation with itself. That conversation determines what you notice, what you believe, how you feel, and ultimately how you act. The most powerful part of that conversation is not the answers you give yourself, but the questions you ask. Your brain is designed to search for answers the moment a question is presented. It doesn't pause to decide whether the question is helpful or harmful. It simply begins collecting evidence. If you repeatedly ask yourself why your life is difficult, why nothing ever works, or why you always seem to fall behind, your mind will search through your memories and experiences until it finds proof that supports those beliefs. Over time, those answers become your reality, not because they are the complete truth, but because they are the only truth your mind has been trained to notice. High achievers understand that changing the quality of their lives begins by changing the quality of their questions. Instead of asking why they failed, they ask what they can learn. Instead of asking why opportunities never come their way, they ask how they can create opportunities. Instead of focusing on what they have lost, they focus on what they can build next. These questions shift attention away from problems and toward possibilities. The moment your attention changes, your emotions begin to change. Your decisions become more intentional because your mind is now searching for solutions rather than excuses. Every challenge you face carries more than one meaning. The meaning you attach to it depends on the questions you ask. A setback can become proof that you are incapable, or it can become evidence that you are growing stronger. A rejection can convince you to quit, or it can inspire you to improve. The event itself remains the same, but your interpretation determines your response. That response shapes your habits, and your habits gradually shape your future. This is why two people can experience the exact same obstacle and create completely different outcomes. One asks questions that produce fear and hesitation, while the other asks questions that produce courage and action. Imagine beginning every morning with questions that challenge you to grow instead of questions that reinforce your limitations. Ask yourself what action will move you closer to your vision today. Ask how you can serve others more effectively. Ask what lesson yesterday was trying to teach you. Ask which fear no longer deserves control over your decisions. These questions activate a different mindset. They encourage responsibility instead of blame, action instead of procrastination, and confidence instead of doubt. They remind you that your future is not created by chance, but by the direction of your focus. The questions you ask repeatedly become the framework through which you see the world. They influence your expectations, your attitude, your resilience, and your willingness to persist when progress feels slow. Every empowering question opens another door inside your mind, revealing possibilities that were always there but hidden beneath limiting beliefs. As your questions become stronger, your thinking becomes clearer. Your decisions become wiser, your confidence becomes more authentic, your actions become more consistent, and your life begins to reflect the powerful mindset you choose to develop every single day through intentional curiosity and purposeful self-reflection. Motivation is exciting because it fills you with energy, confidence, and the belief that anything is possible. It often arrives in powerful moments after watching an inspiring message, reading a meaningful book, or experiencing a life-changing event. During those moments, making promises to yourself feels easy. You decide that this time everything will be different. You create ambitious goals, imagine a brighter future, and feel unstoppable. But motivation is an emotion, and like every emotion, it rises and falls. Some mornings you wake up ready to conquer the world, while other mornings you feel tired, distracted, and uncertain. If your progress depends entirely on how motivated you feel, your results will always be inconsistent because emotions were never designed to provide permanent direction. High achievers understand that discipline is far more dependable than inspiration. They know there will be days when excitement disappears and doubt takes its place. Instead of waiting for motivation to return, they rely on habits they have built through repetition. They make decisions based on commitment rather than emotion. They understand that success is rarely created during moments of excitement. It is created during ordinary days when no one is watching, when distractions are everywhere, and when choosing the easier path would feel completely justified. Those quiet decisions, repeated over and over again, eventually produce extraordinary outcomes. Discipline means honoring the promises you make to yourself even when nobody else knows about them. It means showing up when the weather is bad, when your schedule feels overwhelming, and when immediate results are nowhere to be seen. It requires trusting that today's effort is an investment in tomorrow's possibilities. Every disciplined action strengthens your character because it teaches your mind that your words have value. Each time you follow through on a commitment, you build trust with yourself. That trust becomes confidence, not because someone praised you, but because you prove to yourself that you can be counted on regardless of how you feel. One of the greatest misconceptions is believing that disciplined people have stronger willpower than everyone else. In reality, they simply remove the need to negotiate with themselves every day. Their routines become automatic. They decide in advance what matters most, allowing consistency to replace endless decision-making. Instead of asking whether they feel like taking action, they remind themselves that action is simply part of who they are. This mindset reduces excuses because discipline becomes an identity rather than a temporary effort. Every meaningful achievement is built through countless small actions that seem insignificant in the moment. Reading a few pages each day may not seem life-changing, but over months and years it transforms your knowledge. Exercising consistently may not produce immediate results, but it gradually builds strength, health, and resilience. Saving a little money at a time may feel slow, yet it creates financial stability through patience and persistence. Success rarely arrives through one dramatic breakthrough. It grows through repeated actions that compound over time until the difference becomes impossible to ignore. The greatest reward of discipline is not the achievement itself, but the person you become while pursuing it. You become more reliable, more resilient, more focused, and more capable of handling challenges without losing sight of your purpose. Your confidence stops depending on temporary emotions because it is rooted in consistent action. The more often you choose discipline over comfort, the more natural excellence becomes, the more resilient your mindset grows, the more unstoppable your progress becomes, and the more your daily actions reflect the future you have committed yourself to creating through unwavering consistency, intentional effort, and personal responsibility. Every person dreams of reaching a higher level in life, yet very few are willing to step beyond the boundaries of what feels familiar. Comfort has a way of convincing you that staying where you are is safer than risking the unknown. It whispers that tomorrow is a better time to begin, that waiting for the perfect opportunity is the wise decision, and that avoiding discomfort will protect you from failure. What it never tells you is that the same comfort can quietly become the greatest obstacle to your potential. Every extraordinary achievement in history began with someone choosing uncertainty over familiarity, progress over convenience, and courage over fear. The moment you decide to pursue a bigger vision for your life, you also choose to leave behind the version of yourself that was satisfied with staying the same. Growth is never meant to feel comfortable because it requires change. And change challenges everything your mind has become accustomed to. Your brain naturally seeks predictability because it associates familiar patterns with safety. That is why trying something new often feels intimidating, even when you know it is the right decision. Whether you are starting a business, learning a new skill, speaking in front of an audience, or chasing a lifelong dream, there will always be moments when doubt becomes louder than confidence. Those moments are not signs that you are on the wrong path. They are evidence that you are entering territory where transformation becomes possible. Every new level demands a new version of you, and becoming that person requires leaving behind old habits, outdated beliefs, and limiting expectations. Many people mistake discomfort for danger. They assume that feeling nervous means they should stop or turn back. In reality, discomfort is often the signal that you are stretching beyond your current limitations. Think about every ability you possess today. At one point, it was unfamiliar and difficult. Walking, reading, communicating, solving problems, and developing confidence all required repeated effort before they became natural. The same principle applies to every future goal. The first attempt may feel awkward. The second may still feel uncertain. The third may reveal small improvements. Eventually, what once seemed impossible becomes part of your identity because your willingness to remain uncomfortable allowed your abilities to expand. High achievers develop a different relationship with challenges. Instead of asking how they can avoid obstacles, they ask how obstacles can strengthen them. They understand that pressure reveals character and that adversity often uncovers strengths that comfort could never develop. Difficult moments teach patience, resilience, adaptability, and emotional control. They force you to think creatively, make better decisions, and discover capabilities that remained hidden during easier seasons. Without challenge, there is no reason to evolve. Without resistance, there is no opportunity to become stronger. Just as muscles grow by overcoming resistance, your character grows by overcoming adversity. Every breakthrough exists on the other side of uncertainty. The promotion you desire, the confidence you seek, the relationships you hope to build, and the dreams you want to achieve all require actions that may initially feel uncomfortable. Waiting until fear disappears only delays progress because courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is choosing to move forward while fear is still present. Every step you take despite uncertainty expands your confidence, strengthens your resilience, deepens your self-belief, broadens your perspective, increases your capacity to overcome future challenges, and gradually transforms discomfort from something you avoid into something you recognize as the pathway to continuous growth, lasting achievement, and limitless personal development. Every person has goals. Almost everyone dreams of achieving greater success, better health, stronger relationships, financial freedom, or a more meaningful life. Yet if having goals were enough, far more people would be living the lives they imagine. The difference between those who dream and those who achieve is not found in the size of their ambitions, but in the standards they refuse to compromise. Goals give you direction, but standards determine your daily behavior. A goal is something you hope to reach in the future. A standard is the minimum level of excellence you demand from yourself every single day. When your standards remain low, even the biggest goals slowly lose their power because your daily actions never rise high enough to support them. Think about the promises you make to yourself. How often have you decided to wake up earlier, exercise consistently, learn a new skill, spend less time distracted, or become more disciplined? Those promises are usually made with genuine intention, yet they often disappear because they were based on temporary excitement rather than lasting standards. High achievers do not rely on occasional bursts of motivation. They create non-negotiable habits that become part of who they are. They decide that certain behaviors are simply no longer acceptable. They refuse to tolerate excuses that once seemed reasonable. Instead of asking whether they feel like doing the work, they ask whether their actions match the standards they have chosen to live by. Your standards influence every area of your life. If you accept mediocrity in your daily routine, average results become inevitable. If you tolerate procrastination, distractions, and inconsistency, those habits quietly shape your future. Every time you lower your standards to match your emotions, you reinforce the belief that comfort is more important than growth. Over time, those small compromises become patterns, and those patterns become your reality. The life you experience tomorrow is being shaped by the standards you accept today. Raising your standards begins with making decisions before challenges appear. Decide that you will finish what you start. Decide that your word matters. Decide that learning is a lifelong commitment. Decide that your health deserves consistent attention. Decide that your time is too valuable to waste on habits that move you further away from your purpose. When these decisions become personal standards instead of temporary goals, your choices become clearer. You spend less energy debating what to do because your standards have already made the decision for you. High achievers understand that excellence is not an occasional performance. It is a way of living. They know that every small action reflects the expectations they have for themselves. They pay attention to details because details shape habits, and habits shape character. They arrive prepared because preparation reflects respect for their opportunities. They continue learning because they believe growth has no finish line. Their commitment to high standards becomes visible long before extraordinary success appears. The most important standards are often the ones nobody else sees. Keeping promises when nobody is watching, maintaining integrity when shortcuts seem easier, choosing discipline instead of immediate pleasure, and continuing to improve even after achieving success are all signs of someone who has decided that excellence is a personal responsibility rather than a public performance. The moment you raise what you are willing to expect from yourself, your mindset begins to shift, your habits become stronger, your confidence grows through consistent action, your decisions become more intentional, your influence expands, your opportunities increase, and your daily life begins reflecting the higher standard you have chosen to uphold. Through every choice you continue to make before you can change your circumstances, you must first change the way you think about them. Every action you take begins as a thought. Every habit starts with a decision, and every achievement is created by a mindset that refuses to accept limitations as permanent. Many people spend their lives trying to control everything around them while ignoring the one thing that influences every result they experience, their own mind. They believe success depends on better opportunities, more resources, or favorable conditions. But the truth is that your external world is often a reflection of your internal world. If your thoughts are filled with doubt, fear, and uncertainty, those emotions will shape your decisions. If your thoughts are driven by purpose, confidence, and possibility, your actions begin to align with the future you want to create. The mind is incredibly powerful because it cannot always distinguish between what is repeatedly imagined and what is repeatedly experienced. Whatever you consistently tell yourself begins to feel true. If you constantly repeat that you are not good enough, not smart enough, or not capable enough, your brain starts treating those statements like facts. It influences your confidence, your willingness to take risks, and your ability to recognize opportunities. On the other hand, when you intentionally replace limiting beliefs with empowering ones and support them through consistent action, your mind gradually adopts a new perspective. This shift does not happen overnight, but every repeated thought strengthens a mental pathway, making positive thinking and purposeful action more natural over time. One of the greatest obstacles to personal growth is self-doubt. Self-doubt rarely announces itself loudly. Instead, it whispers subtle excuses that seem reasonable. It tells you to wait until you are more prepared, more experienced, or more confident. It convinces you that someone else is more qualified or more deserving of success. It encourages comparison until you begin measuring your potential against someone else's progress. The longer you listen to these thoughts without questioning them, the stronger they become. High achievers understand that self-doubt is not eliminated before action. It is weakened by action. Every step you take, despite uncertainty, sends a message to your mind that fear is no longer in control. Resting your mind also requires learning to guard what you allow into it. Every conversation, every environment, every piece of information, and every habit influences your thinking. If you constantly surround yourself with negativity, criticism, and distraction, your mindset slowly reflects those influences. If you intentionally fill your mind with knowledge, optimism, discipline, and meaningful conversations, your perspective begins to expand. Your mind becomes stronger because you have trained it to focus on growth rather than limitation. Just as your body becomes healthier through consistent care, your mind becomes more resilient through intentional daily practice. Excuses lose their power when responsibility becomes your default response. Instead of blaming circumstances, you begin asking what you can control. Instead of complaining about obstacles, you search for solutions. Instead of waiting for perfect conditions, you create momentum with the resources you already have. This shift in thinking transforms challenges into opportunities for growth and every setback into a lesson that prepares you for greater responsibility. Over time, you begin to realize that your greatest strength has never been the absence of problems, but the ability to think clearly, remain focused, overcome limiting beliefs, make courageous decisions, maintain unwavering discipline, and continue moving toward your vision, regardless of temporary setbacks, uncertainty, fear, or the opinions of others who never truly understood the potential that has always existed within you